I'm here looking for some advice. I don't really have anyone to look to, and I just want to know how to move forward. I've been with my wife for 10 years, married for 3. We have 3 daughters. She's a stay-at-home mom, and I work full-time. She's going back to school next week to finish her drafting degree. I'm 30 and she's 33. We own our house and have a good marriage. We do have a lot of financial issues with one income. We've never had problems with infidelity before. About 9 days ago, the night of the 10th, we were in bed and she asked me if we could talk. She asked me about brining others into the bedroom. We've talked about it before, but she decided it's something she really wanted to try. I'm open to experiment and told her we could, if it's the right person and the right time. She then brought up my close friend we can call Jake. Jake has an open relationship with his wife and talks openly about group sex. It took me a little off guard because me and him have been close friends for 15 plus years. We played in a band together in college. I told her that him being so close to us might be complicated, but she persisted that it could be okay. We dirty talked a bit about fooling around with another girl and then had sex. She got in the shower right after, and I had some feeling she had been talking to Jake about a threesome without coming to me. So I looked in her phone. I know it's an invasion of privacy, but we don't lock our phones and have never had a closed-off policy about it. I noticed she had a muted conversation with Jake. There was a lot of missing bits to the convo, so I thought all that was strange. We then went to bed. After she fell asleep, I check again to try to dispel my paranoia. I was going to tell her the next day I went through her phone and apologize. But then I found a deleted conversation she had not cleared from the deleted folder. I restored it and found about 60 messages between her and Jake. That's from the 8th. They started by talking about him and his wife's relationship. She then asked him if he ever thought about sleeping with her. He said yes. She said she had as well. They talked about how they were both aroused, flirted about touching each other. It escalated to talking about meeting up and having sex. It was fairly graphic. I have screenshots of much of the convo I sent from her phone to mine. He was much more aggressive than she was, but she did reciprocate and dirty talk back. They ended it by talking about her coming over the next day to hang out and smoke some weed. The times are while I was at work, and the girls were at school. Texts from the 9th. She asks Jake what time she should come over after she drops regulars off at school, and I go to work. He texts back and says whenever. She texts again after getting to his house about 30 minutes later to let him know she's there. Later that night, she texts him that they need to never talk about it again, and he needs to keep it to himself. She says she feels terrible for what happened, and he assures her it's okay, and that they can keep it a secret. She says it was just about wanting to adventure sexually, but she went too far. The next night, the 10th, is when I find them. I wake her up and confront her about it. She breaks down and admits to everything. While at his house, they talked for a little while about what group sex is like. They kissed, and he took off her shorts and underwear off and went down on her. He then took his pants off and she touched him. She bent over but began to cry. They stopped and held her for a little bit, and they got dressed. So after all this, I ask her how she can do this, and she cries and says she's sorry, and that she made a mistake and was going to tell me everything the next day. I left and stayed at my friend's for a few days, and her mother drove 4 HRS to stay with her and help with the kids. I came back 3 days ago after her mom had to leave. She says that it happened because she had a very high libido after a long period of low libido because of her medication and the lack of autonomy from raising kids at home for years. That she was just very sexually curious about involving other partners, and it led to receiving attention from another person. So I want to forgive her and move on. I still love her and my family. I want to keep what we've had. We plan to do therapy. I want to ask anyone who's been in a similar situation what they have done to forgive and what each of us could do. I want to trust her again.